The MacBook Pro 16. It's been the quintessential Apple laptop ever since it was first released back in 2019 with Intel processors. And sometime next year, we should be blessed with the new M2 version. And you know what? You should not wait around for it. I carry my M1 MacBook Pro 16 with me everywhere. I've taken this on work trips, lots of family trips, and lots of trips. I'm kind of clumsy. And in all that time, I honestly can't think of a single time where I thought to myself, you know what, Gary, dang, I wish I could spend more money to buy this again, but like 10% better. So today we're gonna go through all of the reasons why I think if you are in the market for a laptop, and even if this is the future and the M2, M3, or even scarily, the M4 MacBooks are on the scene, this is still probably the one to get. I guess we can start off with the reason somebody actually buys a laptop or a MacBook in the first place and see how this stacks up. I think those two things are price and performance. Everything else that we can talk about exists in subservience to those two variables. Let's start off with the price. The best part about the M1 MacBook Pro 16 is that it's over a year old at this point. That means while technically, yes, it's still at the cutting edge, as far as Mac computers go, because they haven't released its replacement, it's also old enough for discounts. I'm talking about $500 off brand new from Amazon, or more, depending on when you check. I'm talking about $400 off refurbished from Apple. You can get the base model version for at or under $2,000. And I bet, I wouldn't be willing to bet my hat, but I bet as we get closer to the holiday season, it might get even lower. Even if I Magic Thanos snap my fingers and make a new laptop come out tomorrow, which, yes, that's a very boring and anticlimactic way to use, infinite powers. And if I had the magic to make a new laptop, I could probably also magic the price. Okay, this example fell apart, but let's say a laptop comes out tomorrow, it's going to be $24.99 or more. Inflation is way up. That's not magic, that's just market economics. The price of things is getting more and more expensive. The next MacBook is undoubtedly not going to be cheaper than this one. While the rest of this video might veer into the suburbs of subjectivity, this is a cold, hard number from downtown objectivity. You can't even argue with me. Not because of the numbers, but because you're not here. Like, you're not here in my office. You're on the other side of the internet, so you can't really argue with me. Moving away from price, let's talk about the performance of the MacBook Pro 16 versus some kind of hypothetical future version of itself. And I want to start with physical performance. I would and have called this usability in the past, but it wouldn't have lined up as nicely with the shot composition that I wanted of the price to performance, so, YouTube. The MacBook Pro 16 as it exists today is the perfect laptop, and I say that without any hint of YouTuber hyperbole. This is amazing. It's the single closest thing that you can get to a desktop computer that fits in your satchel. This is my satchel, and hey, even Indiana Jones had one. The monitor is gigantic, bright, and it has a faster refresh rate than my actual computer monitor. This is my desk. This is my home desk. This display is better than that display. It's got HDR capabilities that make my iPhone blush. It's larger than the monitors that I used growing up. Like, I remember growing up with like 15 and 14-inch monitors. This is bigger than that. It's remarkable that they were able to fit this on a laptop and not have the laptop be the same size as, I don't know, but something that's really big. You take that fantastic screen and add in one of the best keyboards in the business and a trackpad that's larger than my phone. Okay, I actually had to fact check myself. It's not bigger than my phone. You also get 3 Thunderbolt 4 ports, an SD card slot, and an HDMI port. Apple spent a ton of effort, money, and design work to get this laptop into its current state. They are not going to reinvent the wheel for the M2 version. For example, look at how the iPads have been faring. The iPad Pro and Air have essentially been the same darn hardware since their refreshes in 2018 and 2020. Now that's not necessarily a bad thing. Those are awesome pieces of tech, but it's also not a reason to chase the latest hardware, because that hardware, while yes, it's marginally better, is only marginally better. Okay, let's talk about that marginality. Yeah, that's definitely not a word. M1 versus M2. The battle of the, well, not the century, but I guess the battle of a period of time spanning about 2 years. If I'd made this video a year ago, which I might have, we would have had to speculate about a lot of things regarding the performance of the M2 chip as a whole. And in fairness, we'll still be speculating a bit today, but I think we'll use the analogy method of comparison to show hypothetically how much power we could expect from an M1 Max to an M2 Max by looking at the differences between the M1 and the M2 standard CPUs. Structurally speaking, the M1 and the M2 CPUs look very similar. They have similar core counts, but more importantly, they have a similar ratio of core counts. So for performance, for efficiency. And that's the first thing that we could say stays similar, the construction of the chip itself. I believe the ratio would stay consistent as we move to the Pro and Max style of processor. So it would change a little bit. And in the M1 Pro and Max, you have 2 efficiency and 6 performance. 6. There's just a hand movement. I wasn't saying 5. Essentially what this means is the M2 Pro or M2 Max should still track along that progression of previous chips. One thing that we've noticed, well, I haven't, but people smarter than me have noticed, is the M2 processor pulls more power compared to the M1. So they've gotten a big chunk of their power increases this time around just from putting more oomph into it. Despite some hysterics when the M2 MacBook Air and MacBook Pro 13 came out, you could see that in certain cases, certain extreme cases, by the way, the M2 would need more energy, leading to warmer temperatures, leading to more effort needed by the laptop to either limit the power of the CPU at the start or more work for the active cooling system. That active cooling system is a fancy word for internal fans, by the way. While that was a huge issue that was decried as this technical failure, that the MacBook couldn't run benchmarks and render video and play video games at a crisp 60 frames per second all at the same time, while that is ridiculous, and it was ridiculous at the time, I think it's interesting though to pull on that thread, because I do think we would see a bigger performance increase from a hypothetical M2 MacBook Pro 14 and 16 compared to those initial versions, because the 14 and the 16 have far more robust cooling systems inside of them. You essentially get more thermal headroom on these because they have better fans or vapor chamber cooling systems, and that lets Apple engineers push their processors a little harder than they otherwise would. And let's make a quick note. I don't think that any of the current gen or any of the M series Apple computers have thermal issues. I think they operate well within what their design and purpose is for, but I think we could see more power this generation as opposed to last generation. So instead of a 10 to 12-ish% increase from M1 standard to M2 standard, I wouldn't be surprised to see a 12 to 17% increase in overall processing power moving to M2 Pro, M2 Max, which cycles back to the other side of the background. Is a 12 to 17% power increase worth spending that much more money on? Is it? Is it? What? Did you see the title of the video? Seriously, all the current Macs of all stripes are more than enough power for whatever computing task you need, especially when you look at the big beefy 14 and 16-inch MacBooks. I can't even use previous performance arguments from the M1 standard days where you legitimately might be missing out on memory style functionality. If you remember, the M1 standard MacBooks were limited to 16 gigabytes of unified memory at their maximum. And while yes, unified memory is crazy fast, there are physical limitations if your specific workflow needs more than 16 gigabytes. But the MacBook Pro 16 and 14 can have 64 gigabytes of unified memory, and while sure, there are always workflows that can use more, there is a reason the Mac Pro exists, it's just not worth it in the realm of regular computing to need 128 gigabytes or higher. So like, I guess if you need a laptop with 128 gigabytes of memory, don't buy the MacBook Pro 16. That's like, I guess, its own video. But I would be pretty skeptical that an M2 MacBook Pro 16 would have 128 as an option either. I was actually skeptical enough about consumer level laptops with that much memory even existing, and I'm not sure you would still call them consumer, but you can find mobile workstations that have just that. They cost about $6,000. I'm not sure we're talking to the same people with this video and that kind of a video. Roblox oof sound here, am I right? With all that out of the way, is there actually a reason that I would recommend somebody wait for the newest version of the M2 MacBook Pro instead of getting this while you can? And yes, there is actually one reason that I would suggest waiting. If you don't actually need a computer today, I would recommend not buying one. There you go. How's that for a YouTuber video? Don't actually go out and buy anything. If your need pushes you out so far that you need a laptop about 1 year from the mark of the M2 MacBook Pro's release, well then it will also, much like this, it will also probably be in its discount window, and at that point, it would probably be a pretty darn good deal. So yes, I would say if you are waiting around for 18 months to 2 years, go ahead and wait for that next MacBook. But if you have a need now, buy what you need now. You thought I was going to get through this video without saying it. If you did, let me know in the comments below. Seriously, the current MacBook Pro 16 is my favorite laptop of all time, and I was Initially very nervous about moving to this from my last favorite laptop of all time, the M1 MacBook Air. This is way more larger in charger. Monster? Why do I write like this? But after months of this being my only computer, I love it. This is so good. And the fact that you can get it right now for almost 20% less than I paid for it, take advantage of my 20% overpayment on this laptop. I cannot say enough good things about this, and you should absolutely not wait for the next MacBook if you need a computer today. But what about you? What laptop are you currently using, and what might be your reason for waiting around for the latest one? I'm actually really curious. Let me know in the comments below. And if you like this video and you want to see the best desk setup that you can get with this kind of a laptop, click right here. Click, 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 click. Thanks for watching.